Today we're looking at hardy hibiscus, or rose mallow, perennial hibiscus, bush hibiscus. I got a lot of different common names, but this general class of hibiscus are nice big bushy plants. They die back to the ground every year. They're completely herbaceous compared with the other two most common types, Rose of Sharon, which is the shrub that a lot of people are familiar with, or Althea, which is a woody structure, nice and big, can be columnar. Then you also have tropical hibiscus, which is also a shrub but not very hardy. These ones tend to be smaller. They have some really nice flowers on them as well. But rose mallow, perennial hibiscus, these ones are going to have the biggest flowers. They're going to put on a lot of growth every year. When they're firmly rooted in, you're going to get more than an inch of growth every day, and you're going to get these really cool tropical looking flowers that are hardy all the way to zone 4. So if you're looking for a really cool perennial to add to the garden, let's talk about hardy hibiscus. So before we can really talk about the cool new varieties on the market, let's go back to what does this plant look like in the wild. So here are some selections of Hibiscus Mudos that are growing next to our retaining pond, and you can see kind of quite a bit of difference compared to the variety. So we do have really nice broad green foliage, but the flowers are, they're conical, they're not opening all the way flat, kind of a light baby pink color, a little bit washed out. And then if you were to feel the flowers, you notice they have a little bit of thin substance. So if we look over here, the petals you can see are very thin substance. You can almost see my finger through the petals. And then the flower buds themselves only form at the top portion of the stem. They don't go super far down the stem. Then you can see just the number of buds that we have overall, the distance in between the nodes. So that's a good example of Hibiscus Mudos. Here we have Hibiscus coccineus, scarlet rose mallow, or Texas rose mallow. So this is a pretty southern species. You can see there are some really nice characteristics of this plant when compared to Mudos. We have a flat facing flower, and then we have that nice dark red flower color. So this is where we get most of our red hybrids will have some of the coccineus in the background. Unfortunately, there is quite a bit of gappiness to the individual flowers. You can see again, we have that determinate blooming only at the top portion of the stem. But we do have really nice dark colored stems. The foliage incredibly elongated, but does have some nice dark highlights to it as well. Characteristic that we can work with and then add later into some of our other hybrids. And here we have one of our earliest hybrids. This is, you can probably see a lot of that Hibiscus coccineus in this. This is Hibiscus Fireball. Here a little bit smaller than when we typically see it. This one we can also expect to be getting up into that 6-7 foot range. You can see the foliage itself is a little bit broader, a little bit more substance to it. Flowers as well, huge improvement where we added that overlapping petal, maximized the size. We still have a little bit of that papery feel to it. And then the habit itself is quite open, but a lot more flowers on this plant than what you get from the straight species. And then we have Hibiscus Midnight Marvel. If we jump ahead a few years in time, this variety has been on the market already for about 15 years. You can see that it keeps that really nice dark red flower and then matches it up with a lot more foliage, really dense habit, and this nice dark near black foliage. So you can see the amount of buds we have here. But unfortunately, where we do introduce that near black foliage, we don't have a lot of deep penetration. So after if you open it up, you see that it gets quite green quite quickly. So a lot of those darker foliage colors, which is common for a lot of plants that need darker foliage, that's very UV dependent, which is why you can't get that color in a greenhouse. So if you're growing them outside and your dark leaf hibiscus is not coloring up, it probably means that you need to move it to a location that gets more full sun. So that you can get all of that dark foliage color. And then we move on past Midnight Marvel to what I think is the best hardy hibiscus on the market for combining that dark foliage and that dark red flower. This is Hibiscus Summerific Holy Grail. It's in the Proven Winners Perennial Collection. You can see the flowers where Midnight Marvel is still a little bit conical. We are now fully flat facing, overlapping petals of really good thick substance, so that we have that good weather tolerance, good resistance exposed to wind or light rains, plant's not going to fall apart. And then the foliage itself, if I open it up, you can see it's very dark black on the leaves, but then that deep color persists down. So if you lose a branch, it's not going to feel like your plant totally changed color. So that is Hibiscus Summerific Holy Grail. Here we have Hibiscus Summerific Edge of Night. If you couldn't guess from the name, this variety gets that name, Edge of Night, from its incredibly dark near black foliage. So this perennial has the darkest foliage that we have seen on a hardy hibiscus to date. It's incredibly solid, dark, and then it persists very far down into the habit as well. This variety as well, from where we started with Hibiscus Mudos, Hibiscus Cochineus, and then all the varieties, you can also see that we've really brought the height and the size down on this plant. So Edge of Night is going to be an incredibly garden-friendly variety. You're going to fit it into most landscapes with that really nice, compact, dense habit. And when it comes to flower color on the hardy hibiscus, we have looked at the red strain primarily, and then one pink with Edge of Night, but you do get a lot of really beautiful flower colors with these, and then blending within the flower itself. So this is Hibiscus Summerific Cherry Chocolte. Cherry Chocolte, so named because of the dark mocha colored foliage mixed in with a huge cherry eye that radiates through white petals, and then has a little bit of blushing pink around the edge as well. I love the flower buds on this. They look like a rose in and of themselves, an incredibly attractive feature of the plant. Largest flowers we have on a hardy hibiscus right now as well, at over 9 inches wide. So if you're looking for one that's got a little bit of a softer flower color, Hibiscus Cherry Chocolte. And here we have Hibiscus Summerific Valentines Crush. So back where we started the video, and then looking at reds again, we have, similar to Holy Grail, that really nice rounded red flower, really big, but we're back onto a green habit. We know that not everybody wants that dark foliage, so we have varieties with dark foliage, and then also back into those olive greens and lighter even than that. We also here are able to see really clearly kind of the couple of different habits that you can expect to get out of a hardy hibiscus. So you have some that are just incredibly compact, but we do like some that give you a little bit of height in the garden as well. Not something that's going to be sprawling and going to fall all over the place. That's one of the knocks against the species, is when they flower they tend to become very weak and then splay and spread open in the garden. But varieties like Valentine's Crush, which was selected because it has a really nice columnar habit, is also incredibly sturdy. So this is a perennial that you are going to have to cut down in late fall or early spring once it's been established in the garden, because it is not going to collapse and fall open on you. And when you have these really big heavy flowers and heavy buds start to form at the top of the plant, that is a risk that you can get. If you do notice that your hibiscus is falling open, it could be that it's either getting too many nutrients, it's too fertile, or it could be that it's in too much shade and then the stems are stretching and they don't have the strength that you would get if it was planted in full sun. So if you site this plant correctly, you should have just a beautiful columnar plant that's going to look sharp in your garden. And if Edge of Night wasn't small enough for you, we also have new for 2025, maybe the best we've saved for last. This is Summerific Cookies and Cream, which is the first combination of a pure white flower on a dark near black foliage. So this is going to be one of the smallest hibiscus that we have ever introduced. It's just under 3 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. Really nice ball-shaped habit, and then incredibly floriferous with tons of buds coming up the stem, and it is just starting to come into peak now. So if you're looking for a small hibiscus that's going to give you really nice contrast in the garden with that black and white coloration, then Hibiscus Summerific Cookies and Cream is definitely one to add to your list. And then last but certainly not least, thanks for sticking with us as we go through all these varieties. We have new for 2024 Hibiscus Watermelon Ruffles. So this has a really beautiful watermelon pink color. Notable on this variety, really nice olive green foliage, and you have these incredibly ruffled individual leaves. So if you think back to the species, there was none of that puckering that we looked at. There's nice solid flat petals, but here we have added in this pinched or ruffled element, which gives each individual flower just a lot of character and texture. And we have really nice overlapping petals to where each petal overlaps almost 50%. So you get flowers that are incredibly durable on this really nice ball-shaped habit. So that is Hibiscus Watermelon Ruffles. So this is also one of our earliest blooming hardy hibiscus. If you're familiar with them at all, you know that they are notoriously late to wake up in spring. Something that you would not expect of a perennial that puts on this much growth in a single season. You would expect them to be up early in spring to get all of that size, but no, for us, sometimes they don't come out of the ground until Memorial Day. So if you plant one in your garden and you're not seeing any signs of life, best advice is just be patient. Wait a few more weeks for you to get that size. One of our earliest blooming varieties is Watermelon Ruffles, so if you can believe it, this plant did not wake up until mid-May, and here we are late July, and it has already been in bloom for a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching. We hope you found a hardy hibiscus that you like.